Hey YouTube, it's Morgan, aka the Mountaineer. Welcome to part 3 of my new press build trilogy. This is the results and a discussion of the whole project. Overall, I think this was a very successful project. You know, if you've watched the first couple parts, you've seen the build and the loading of the press and the results of what came out of it, which is a cake with an inner coin. I did a little bit of research, nothing too extensive, and I didn't see where anyone had done this in the amateur home tobacconist arena. But so I don't know if I'm not the first and you have information, please leave a comment, link, or keywords to look up, down below, or if you look in the description, I have an email address and my Instagram account. Feel free to send me an email or a message on Instagram. I'd love to see what other people have done if this isn't anything new. But yeah, I'm very pleased. This is actually something I've been thinking about for about 2 years, how to do this. And, initially, it was a lot more my ideas were a lot more complicated. And I think about it for a little bit and move on to other projects and come back to it and draw another set of overly elaborate designs. And then a few months ago I kind of came up with the basis of what I've done here, and then I refined that and came up with the present setup, and I started work on it, constructing it, about a month ago. So this is an actual physical experiment, about a month long. And I've definitely, as I've done it, I've thought of ways to improve it. If I was to go back and do it again, things that I would do differently. So if you guys want to replicate this, maybe give you a few pointers on where to begin and learn from my mistakes. But sorry if there's a lot of noise. I do have a fan going, and it's raining in the windows right there, and you can hear it splattering on the ground out there. But anyhow, so I'll give you some notes. I will say this is actually a pretty tasty little blend for being kind of an ad-lib thing. But as you can tell, essentially I took one of the plates from the press, drilled a hole to fit this center guide rod. I 3D printed, made a model for this and for a filling mechanism. I made those designs and 3D printed them on a resin printer. First time I've had things 3D printed from online services, but I've never done it myself, so that was a learning experience in and of itself. You might have noticed I had to sand this some, and this was not a very strong design. Pieces are chipped off, and it is broken a little bit. I've had to re-glue it. But so that would be the first improvement, just improvement on the design. In the modeling section, you see it actually had a wall around there, and I took that out later. I would have kept that and essentially made any of these 90-degree angles in here rounded, just to make it less stress, those are 90-degree angles are where things break. So eliminate that as much as I could. Maybe make, instead of 4 crossbars make it either 2 or 3, just to reduce the amount obstructed, but it still worked out pretty well. It was actually very easy to stuff. But anyway, so it started out in the press, you know, put this in there, or put that in there to load the press with this in the middle. This dowel was a pain in the butt to get this parchment paper on. I wanted it to definitely be a little bit bigger than what would come out of the secondary press, to allow it to fit into it easily. So the first material difference I would make, besides better prints, would be to use something like HDPE, or something very sturdy but very slick in and of itself, so I don't have to mess with parchment paper. If I could get, you know, slightly oversized rod of HDPE, I think that would work perfectly. It's pretty tough, you know, it's not really under that much pressure, because it's just as you tighten it down, it slips through the end cap. So it's not, you know, I don't think it needs a lot of structural help there. The biggest difference I would make would be with this press. This was 3/4 inch black iron pipe, I think. Cut a piece off. I left this threading here, but cut it because it tapers, because I was thinking I might drill and tap an end cap to put on there to get the plug out when I was done. But this stuff, I cleaned it up. It rusts quickly, which isn't that big of a deal when you use parchment paper on the inside. The worst part about this thing, other than all the filing and stuff, I mean, I could have gotten out a Dremel, and of course you think, you know, hindsight is 20/20, but a Dremel to clean up the ends. But I sanded and filed it and sanded the insides and stuff. But the biggest obstacle is that this iron pipe has a welded seam through the middle. I don't know if you can pick up this black line, but I use that to mark it. But that's how they join it. So on the interior, there's a little rib. Again, I don't know if you can see it, but I had to accommodate that by cutting a channel in this dowel, a 5/8 inch dowel. And this stuff is about 0.62 inches on the interior diameter. 5/8 is 0.625, so I had to sand that down quite a bit, cut that channel in, which this was oak, with crazy grain, so it wasn't the easiest to carve. So if I was to go back and do it again, I'd probably use some other, well, actually this isn't too bad. Should have gotten some drawn over mandrel tubing, which is, you know, they basically draw out steel, but it has a very consistent and precise interior diameter. Instead of being something that's folded and welded, it's metal that's extruded. I think that's the right word, I don't know, but it's pulled out, but there's no stinking inner seam. That was the worst thing to deal with, and I could have saved myself a lot of headache, and actually probably could have saved a little money just buying some drawn over mandrel tubing on Amazon or on eBay. But yeah, it was a bit of a headache. Getting it all together, but it's 100% worth it. And really the execution of making the two cakes and combining them, it went a lot smoother than I expected. You know, the camera shots weren't that great, but because I was trying to focus on what I was doing, but it did. I did miss a couple bits of parchment paper, especially when I went to fill this up. I forgot to line the interior, and I thought, oh crap, that's gonna not come out. I'm gonna have to mess with it. So I did learn that trying to film a project and with divided attention on filming it and executing the project, it's a little bit more difficult than I thought. I have more respect for, you know, these maker YouTube people. But I, you know, I got it all together. Went a lot easier than I thought. Filling this up, I thought would take forever. That wasn't bad. When I popped that out and pulled this out, I thought I could run into trouble combining the two. Easy as pie, as you saw. Whenever I pulled this out, the parchment paper was enough in the little one that the cake was actually kind of segmented, and so I was able to just stuff little pieces in there, and that went very smoothly. When I first went to take it out of the press, if you're not very familiar with these, there's an inner sleeve in here. You know, this exterior body with this divot for the handle, the threading, you know, that's one piece, and then there's a sleeve, a tightly fit sleeve, and I've had it come out, and I've seen other people have it come out too. If you know, when the cake sticks to the side, the ram will just push the whole thing out. It extended out about maybe about a 1/16 of an inch, and I thought, oh man, kept going, came out smooth, and I was so excited. But I think, you know, I'll do it again. Whether I use some of the same things here or not remains to be seen. I might do the upgrades I said, but you know, I think it's pretty cool. They were quick blends, you know, just rough. The binder that I used to kind of make it sticky and stick together, and hoping to keep the two separate coins to get to grab each other, it was completely ad hoc. I basically took a little bit of water, a whole bunch of sugar, and dissolved that in there, and poured some 10-year-old Ardbeg in it to give it a little bit of alcohol with a little bit of flavor. And I thought, oh no, I didn't want to use vinegar. I wanted to steer away from that. With, you know, this is supposedly stainless, but I don't think it's very high grade stainless, and I knew for sure, you know, that introducing anything like vinegar would exacerbate that, even if you line it. So I wanted to steer clear of that. So I do a little bit more research and things like that, maybe think my blends out. But honestly, you know, this isn't staying lit the best, but the flavors are pretty good. Well, thanks for tuning in. I'm definitely gonna, you know, continue down this road, think about it more, have at least one more type of project lined up, one or two blends that I'm thinking of making. So please keep watching and tuning in. Until next time, thanks.